4B, identify and discuss any non-compliance with the Companies Act and King. I need to use working papers 2 and 4. Remember, I corrected that on my side. Your side, you've got it as 2. So I'm going to start with working paper 2 and move into working paper 4. I have to put down the theory and then apply. It's likely that there will be common non-compliances. So guys, I might want to go now and set out my question where I put a heading for Companies Act and a heading for King with a bit of space in between, so that I don't just try and do all Companies Act and read past the King ones and then come back to those. It's just wasting time. As I pick up a non-compliance for either, I want to be able to go and put them down. Into working paper 2, I'm looking for any non-compliance with King or Companies Act that I've picked up. And if I don't find them, I'm going to keep moving on into 4 because I want to be using what I picked up in the reading time first before I start rereading anything. Because if I'm doing that, guys, I'm at least getting the marks for that. The marker doesn't see what I've done in the scenario. The marker only marks what's down in my answer sheet. Okay, so I have found my concern here from a Companies Act perspective, the reckless trading. They are currently in a net liability current situation, and unless they get further finance, they will not be able to settle their debts as they fall due. Okay, so that is non-compliance with the Companies Act, reckless trading. If I'm struggling with how to start this, I go into section 22 of the Companies Act and I see here, company must not carry on its business recklessly, and one way of doing this is if they are unable to pay their debts as they become due and payable. So I'm just going to say a company must not carry on its business recklessly or unable to pay its debt as they fall due and payable. They are currently in a net current liability position, and without finance will not be able to pay their debts as they fall due. Therefore, non-compliance. As soon as I've got non-compliance with the Companies Act, we had made a note to reportable irregularity. They don't want anything from the APA, so I'm not going to discuss that. But what I do now have from a King perspective is non-compliance with the law and regulation, so I can go and add that. And guys, you can look at that in section 13, but I'm just going to state here, company must comply with all laws and regulations applicable. I can say non-compliance with the Companies Act, reckless trading, therefore non-compliance with King. I had nothing else here, so I'll move straight down to working paper 4. Okay, and I've got non-compliance with King and with the Companies Act because of the audit committee. They have to have an audit committee because they are public. That's what the Companies Act says. So I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to prove that they cannot meet the requirements of the audit committee because of the directors board. Let's go and look at section 94 in the Companies Act. So my audit committee section, and it says that a public company must have an audit committee that comprises of at least 3 members, and each of those members must be a director but not involved in the day-to-day running, or be a full-time employee or material supplier or anybody related to those. So ultimately they must be independent. So I'll say a public company must have an audit committee comprising of 3 independent, non-executive directors. And say this public company only has 2 independent, non-executive directors, therefore non-compliance. From a King perspective, if we go to our audit committees in Principle 8. Principle 8 is your committees of the governing body, and it says that each committee should have a minimum of 3 members, and then we'll go down to the audit committee where it explains that all of these members should be independent, non-executive. If I come to Principle 7, which is the governing body, straight down to the chair. We see here the chair of the governing body should not be a member of the audit committee. So, per King, there should be an audit committee comprising of at least 3 independent, non-executive directors. So I can say, yeah, there's only 2 independent, non-executive, therefore non-compliance. Then in addition, the chair should not be a member of the audit committee, and then I'll say one of the 2 independent non-executives is the chair, therefore non-compliance. And all of those have been addressed. I've then got non-compliance with King in terms of the director composition. Also got non-compliance with King in terms of there's no independent non-executive lead. So I'm going to go into Principle 7 now to see these 2 points, to put down the theory so I can apply. My first issue, point 8. Majority should be non-executive. That's not the case here, so non-compliance. And then when I go down to, once again, my chair, it says there should be an independent non-executive lead that has been determined by the board. So my board should comprise majority non-executives. There's 2 execs to 2 non-execs, therefore non-compliance because that's not a majority. And then the board should appoint an independent non-executive lead director, and I can say no independent non-executive lead has been appointed. therefore non-compliance. And those have been addressed. Then, I've said here, we've got non-compliance because they are not liquid to be able to give that loan. So now, although I have tested substantively compliance, it doesn't mean that they did comply. I tested what they should have done. So now I can go and discuss how they haven't met those terms. Because from point 2 showing that they were not liquid and solvent before, or working paper 2, and now they're giving it, means that they cannot be liquid and solvent post this, because they weren't liquid and solvent before. So now I can go and put down a theory of what's supposed to happen with regards to a loan to a related party, and then of a director, and then discuss how they're not complying. We've got quite a few non-compliances because also we've got no special resolution was passed. So now I'm looking at it from a did they comply with or not. And so the board did authorize, which means they did comply there, but there was no employee share scheme or special resolution problem, and it doesn't appear like they were liquid and solvent before that case. Okay, they also didn't discuss compliance with the MOI, so potentially didn't even consider that. Before I put down the theory, I want to make it relevant to the question, so I'm going to say financial assistance has been provided to a related party of a director, therefore the board can authorize, provided 1. There is an employee share scheme, or special resolution passed within 2 years of this decision. They are liquid and solvent post the financial assistance. The terms are fair, and there's been compliance with the MOI. I now need to say the financial assistance is void because there was no employee share scheme or special resolution passed within 2 years of this decision. They were not liquid before the decision, and therefore post the decision will not be liquid. And there was no mention of compliance with the MOI. The section then also states that it is void if they do not meet these terms, so I've already proved that, and that a director will be liable if they were present and failed to vote against the resolution. So I'm going to add that in because that will now lead nicely into me discussing director's conduct. So, director will be liable if present and failed to vote against the resolution. And so based on this, all directors except for Chester will be held liable for this decision. Okay, now let's go consider directors' conduct. We go to section 76 of the Companies Act. Standards of directors' conduct. It says you cannot use your position to gain advantage or knowingly cause harm to a company. You need to exercise your duties and powers in good faith, in the best interest of the company with a degree of care and skill. So I can now go and say, this is what they're saying. By recklessly trading, by then authorizing a decision that puts them into further liquidity issues, they're not acting in the best interest of the company. Directors are required to act in the best interest of the company with due care. And I can then go and say, by recklessly trading and incurring further debt through the loan, this is not in the best interest of the company. And again, this is dealt with in King. So I can now go and discuss the director's conduct from a King perspective, from Principle 1. And here, Principle 1, that members must act in good faith, in the best interest, with due care and skill. They are not doing that. Directors and any of those will give you the same conclusion. By recklessly trading and incurring further debt through the loan, it's not in the best interest. And I have discussed all of those. They haven't asked me to do a CPC from a non-compliance perspective. I've done it from King already as soon as I picked up the non-compliance with the Companies Act. Okay, let's do the last question.